Hi, today we're going to look at powerful PowerPoints and the different ways you can use PowerPoint in your classroom. First of all, I have to explain to you the theory behind cognitive multimedia learning. Now, in cognitive multimedia learning, we basically get your multimedia presentation, which consists out of words and pictures. So that's basically audio and video, anything that you can hear and that you can see. Remember that words that appear on the screen will be a visual as well. Then basically that goes into your sensory memory or your audience's sensory memory via the ears and eyes. And then in the brain, the working memory, which is very limited, needs to select sounds and select the images that it wants to work with and try and remember and try and recall. So you end up with the brain organizing the words and the images into a verbal mental model and a pictorial mental model. And then that gets linked with prior knowledge in the brain, and that integration that happens there is where it gets stored into long-term memory. So the idea is to never bombard your audience with too much visuals or too much audio. Stick to what is necessary to bring your points across. Now over here is a video from National Geographic. I will be placing the link here to click on to have a look at this video, just to make you aware of spatial awareness and how our brains can only focus on a limited amount of things. So, before you start your PowerPoint, you need to start your preparations. Very important is to design for your audience. Remember, a marketing PowerPoint will look completely different to what an educational PowerPoint or information PowerPoint slideshow would look like. Plan your structure beforehand. It's so much easier to design your PowerPoint once you've got the structure on paper. Remember, PowerPoint is only a tool. It should never take center stage in your presentation. You are the person who's supposed to take center stage, and the information must take center stage. PowerPoint must always be used only as a tool. And if you get to a classroom and there's no way that you can use a PowerPoint, let's say for instance there's no projector or there's a power failure, you still need to be able to do your presentation without PowerPoint. And then you're using a visual medium, so think visually. Get strong images that elicit responses and get you to think about things. And then if you're going to use images that are sensitive or that might be sensitive, please warn your audience beforehand. Always keep in mind, when using images or video from the internet, copyright issues. Most educational mediums or use in the educational programs, you won't really have a problem with copyright issues, but be aware of copyright issues and always give credit in your slideshow whenever you use something. Now, the layout of a PowerPoint slideshow is very, very important. You might know the term death by PowerPoint, and I think PowerPoint over the last couple of years have been used to torture each other with. So keep some things in mind. When it comes to your layout, keep it consistent. Every slide should be more or less the same, so that the minimum of information changes from slide to slide. And with consistency, keep your fonts the same size and everything the same size. Especially your fonts, try and keep them the same fonts. Don't jump around between different fonts. The placement of where everything is, keep it together. Too many times I've seen a slideshow where when you go from the one slideshow, there's a slight glitch where text and pictures jump, and that causes an annoyance in the brain. Then animations, use them only when necessary. There's nothing as irritating as waiting for an animation for a word to appear. Choosing colors, Also very important, keep it consistent throughout your full presentation. Next thing we're going to look at is keeping things as simple as possible. Try and only use one slide per message. If need be, you might have to go to another slide, but try and keep it as compact as possible. Use bullets, and use bullets effectively. Do not write sentences and stuff, just get the message there and keep the focus on yourself. There's the 6x6 rule, which is basically per slide 6 bullets and then 6 words in a row per bullet. So if you can keep that even shorter, that would be ideal. And create focus. You will see the effect that I'm using in my slideshow currently is by using a black background. I'm keeping the focus on what is being said and on the specific word or topic that we are discussing at the moment. By creating focus and letting other information dim out, you can really grab your audience attention. And don't use background music unless your lecture is about music. Remember the cognitive multimedia process. The more audio, voices, or sounds you have, the harder the brain has to work to try and deal with all these things. Here's another video that I'll place a link on for you to look at. And it's also another video by National Geographic out of the Brain Games range or series. And this is very much on how little we actually pay attention to things. When it comes to fonts for your PowerPoint slideshow, make sure that they are clearly readable. Don't use fancy fonts. Use something that you can read from a distance very clearly. Avoid using all capitals. It is very difficult to read. And then size does matter. Please keep your fonts as big as possible. When it comes to colors, it's always remember to get back to contrast again. Make sure that your message is standing out that you're currently dealing with. And don't get too creative with colors and end up looking like a kindergarten presentation. Unless, of course, you are presenting to a kindergarten class, in which means it would actually be wonderful using color creatively. And only use color occasionally to create emphasis on a word or on a topic. When it comes to backgrounds, I've also seen my share of really scary backgrounds. I personally prefer to keep it black, but as long as you keep it neutral, you should be okay. I like the black because with projectors in an auditorium, that white block drags a lot of attention and a lot of focus from you. So try and keep yourself bright and just the points that you want to make bright. And keep your backgrounds as simple as possible. I know a lot of us work for companies and universities that has branding that's prescribed, and some of it branding is so disturbing. So try and keep it as simple as possible. Also, keep it consistent. Don't let the backgrounds change from slide to slide. Then, obviously, try and think visually. This is a visual medium that you're using, so once again, keep it simple. Keep your images simple, keep your text simple. Try and keep everything as simple as possible. And use very strong images, once again, to elicit a strong emotion from your audience. When you are working with data, using a lot of numbers on your screen or showing a lot of numbers on your screen just confuses. Try and make them into graphics, and when you use graphics, try and keep the graphics as simple as possible. I'm going to show you a couple of examples as we go along. Using multimedia is always great, but there are things to keep in mind. First of all, the image quality. Unless you are using an ancient photo and you can't find a high quality image, try and avoid using bad images. Rule of thumb is it needs to be at least 150 dpi, and that's dots per inch. Then incorporate video into your slides, but incorporate them effectively. Do not show full movies unless it is necessary to show a full movie. Keep it as short as possible, 2 to 3 minutes maximum. And if you're going to use multimedia videos in your presentation, first of all, download the videos from the internet. There's a range of video downloaders available. You can go onto YouTube and just do a search for downloading YouTube videos. And this way, if you get into a classroom and you're not connected to the internet, you don't have any embarrassment. Also, very important to keep in mind is embed or place your videos in your PowerPoint slideshow so that you don't have to jump between PowerPoint and, for instance, Windows Media Player, which can be very annoying. Try and keep everything flowing as much as possible. Like I said, inserting your video into your PowerPoint is definitely the best thing to do. And if you are going to do your presentation at another venue, and you put your presentation on a memory stick, keep in mind that you have to place all the video files, for instance, that are in your presentation in the same folder as your presentation. So keep your files together. Also important, record narration as far as possible. Just putting up a slideshow, a PDF of a slideshow, rarely helps anyone. So record audio explaining what you are talking about and explaining the subject matter that you are dealing with. Okay, and probably the most important, keep calm and always proofread. For spelling, for grammar, it gets annoying if you're looking at something and someone in the audience notices a spelling mistake, for instance. Their minds are going to stop right there and they're going to focus on that spelling mistake. Now let's have a look at examples of bad PowerPoints. The first one here is what I talked about, the jump. That is very annoying. And then your text, see, when it gets too small it gets annoying, and if it gets fancy it becomes unreadable, and animations can kill a slideshow. And also selecting the right color to contrast with your background is very. Now this is probably the worst kind of PowerPoint slide that there is, and if you think that can't get any worse, trust me, it can get worse. What I talked about earlier on, when you've got statistics and information, rather try and convert graphs. And when you're working with graphs, try and keep the graphs as simple as you can possibly keep them. Avoid shading, avoid too many distracting lines. Image quality. This is an example of excellent image quality. It's a strong message that the image portrays, and it's a good quality. This is what happens when you use small images. It really just gets so distorted that it annoys more than anything else. If you would like more information or would like me to assist you with anything, here's my contact details. Feel free to contact me at any point.